Lee, are you on? Are you on? Hiya, my name's Alex, and on camera is my mate Lee. We're here at the NEC in Birmingham, and we're going to be looking at all the great stuff at the motor show. It's fantastic. So, hang on a minute, it's them off the telly. Come on. Excuse me, are you here for the telly?
Yeah.
What for, like Top Gear then?
No, it's for the BBC One Motorshow special.
Oh, fantastic. When's it going to be on then?
Well, now, actually.
Hi, I'm Jason Barlow.
I'm Vicki Butler-Henderson.
I'm Tiff Needell, and this is Motorshow 2000.
Over the next 40 minutes, we'll be doing our absolute best to show you everything worth showing. But we thought it'd be a good idea to start with a quick dash around the stands to give you a taste of what we'll be doing in this programme.
Like me, getting my hands on the mad Clio Renault Sport V6.
While I get the pleasure of the first road test of the new Subaru Impreza outside Japan.
We'll of course be lusting after the stuff few of us will ever own.
And frowning at the stuff few of us would ever want to.
As well as that, two men most famous for the Baby G watch and redesigning the bra, Richard Seymour and Dick Powell, will be casting their designer eyes over everything they see.
But we have to begin here in the Ford Hall. Oh yes, the Ford Motor Company is now so vast, it needs a whole hall to house all its different marques. So, what's the main attraction in this shrine to Uncle Henry?
Well, it's not Mazda's 323 MPS, even though this sedate family runaround has been stuffed to bursting with techno wizardry.
And nor is it from Ford's Swedish wing, Volvo, although the impressively sporty new S60 is certainly one heck of an image booster.
The main attraction isn't even Aston Martin's Vanquish, which, although drop-dead gorgeous and more powerful than Rupert Murdoch, isn't even at the show. But despite all of that, when you arrive in this hall, there's really only one thing to look at, and it's a family saloon. Eh? The new Ford Mondeo. Just take a wee minute to have a look around it. Pretty soon there'll be so many of these knocking around, you won't give them a second glance. It's smoother, it's more solid, it looks more mature than not just the old car, but also practically everything else in here as well. But why is that? Well, lately, Fords have been edgy, wedgy, and decidedly distinctive. But although this keeps that familiar corporate nose, the rest of it just seems so much more grown up, as does the interior, which has a much, much more upmarket and exclusive feel to it. And there's a good reason for that. Ford want you to now see the Mondeo as a genuine luxury car. They wanted to compete with not only Volkswagen and Audi, but BMW and Mercedes. And you know, despite the unfashionable blue badge in the front, they may well have succeeded in building a prestige motor. Honest. All the controls, the gear change, the clutch, the brakes, they're all perfectly weighted. Nothing feels obstructive. Nothing that would have you muttering under your breath. It's fundamental stuff, to be honest, but you'd be amazed how many car makers saddle their products with irritating, stupid, annoying little glitches. And the Mondeo doesn't appear to have any, actually. Even as the axe was swinging above its head, the old Mondeo was still a terrific driver's car. The new one is just as good. The same unflappable chassis and the same faultless handling and ride. But if you live your life in the motorway, then listen up. Because although the Mondeo is the first car to benefit from Ford's brand new family of engines, this particular power unit, a 2-litre pumping out 145 brake horsepower, is a bit... oh, that's better. It's a bit on the noisy side. Of course, it's very willing to rev, which gives it a fair old turn of speed. It's just a shame that it wasn't quieter, especially as the rest of the car is so remarkably civilized. Lucky old Mondeo, man. He's never had it so good. The new car has a seriously high-quality feel while still being great fun to drive, and it's full of thoughtful design and safety features. Mainstream family saloons were never meant to be this good.
Ferrari, where are we going tonight? That beauty. Now look, they'll never let us on the stand, so I've got a plan. Come with me. What I've got to do is make it look like it's the most natural thing in the world to be on the Ferrari stand. So just follow me, do what I do, and don't do anything stupid. All right, come on. You idiots! That's my dad's camera. It's because I was waiting on Saturday. I'm gonna kill you.
Roofs, huh? Who needs them? Not Ferrari, by the looks of things, because they're lopping the tops of everything they make. Take one large 550 coupe, chop the top, and here you go. 550 Barchetta, possibly the world's ultimate two-seater roadster. But don't go thinking that the £172,500 price buys you a state-of-the-art automatic hood. No, you have to make do with a tiny bit of cloth to pop across the seats. Ferrari request that you don't go too fast with it on. No such problems here, though. The utterly fabulous 360 Spider may have completely lost its head, but there are two good reasons why it could just be the world's sexiest soft top. Firstly, Ferrari have given a generous window through which you can see exactly why this car is so fast. And secondly, this is where to come for that state-of-the-art hood. Just relax and enjoy.
How do you beat that? By building this. Porsche's stunning Carrera GT might only be a concept car at the moment, but if all goes to plan, it'll be going to full production in the next couple of years. Designed to marry Porsche's distinctive styling with their thoroughbred racing technology, it certainly looks the business. And with a 5.5-litre V10 producing 550 horsepower, if it doesn't actually do the business as well, I'll eat my racing overalls.
A slightly smaller fortune will secure you one of these, BMW's new M3. And while £37,500 isn't exactly cheap, it starts to sound like a bargain when you consider that this is the fastest accelerating BMW ever. Not that it shouts about its potential. Okay, so it does, but it's shouting quietly.
As of next spring, TVR's most friendly model will be this, the new Tamora. It's meant to be a more accessible, less intimidating version of the Tuscan. If you can call 330 brake horsepower less intimidating.
But there's no doubt about the intentions of the new Tuscan R. Tailored to your individual tastes and built by the Motorsport division, you can pick whatever engine specification you want. Opt for a sequential gearbox and either have rear seats or a big fuel tank for continental cruising. You can even have a special doggy bed installed.
But however hard the likes of Ferrari and TVR may try with their fancy posh motors, nothing's going to deflect the limelight from the new Mini. And to look around this rejuvenated icon, we invited two gentlemen who, having redesigned the bra, the toilet and the kettle, amongst others, know a thing or two about reinventing familiar icons. Richard Seymour and Dick Powell.
The designers have had a tremendously difficult task. You've got to think back to when Mini first came out. It was a hugely innovative vehicle in every way. Fantastic packaging, TARDIS-like quality inside, loads of space. And it was the fact that it was new that made it such a characterful car.
We talk about blink test a lot at our office. It's the first instantaneous take on what something is. Look at the photographs before the launch and you go, yeah, that's got a lot of meaning. When you get up to the vehicle itself and you walk around, it is actually quite big.
When I look at the new car, I see a lot of details. If I look there, or I look there, or I look there, it says Mini. But is the sum equal to the parts? I don't really think so.
When I got inside it, what I saw was not a Mini. Because the original Mini was incredibly Spartan inside. When you get into this, there is styling, in inverted commas, absolutely everywhere. And it feels contemporary, it feels modern, but it doesn't feel Mini.
Well, I think, taking an overview, it looks like they've taken the DNA from Mini as it was and sort of injected it into a new car. Whereas I think perhaps what they should have done is to take the thinking that lay behind original Mini and apply that style of innovative thinking to a completely new car.
There's an awful lot of sentimentality around at the moment, a lot of looking over the shoulder. When Mini came out in '59, it was dramatically modern. It was saying the future is that way. And if I'd been doing this, I think I'd want to do that again. Not make it look like Mini, but say, what is the next super compact, really brilliant town car for the 21st century? And then I think it would deserve the badge.
Lee, look, Lee, the whole motor show is our lobster. Where shall we go next? Oh, toilets. Actually, I'm bursting.
In the blue corner, the Subaru Impreza P1. In the red corner, the Mitsubishi Evo 6 Tommy Mackinnon. Serious toys for serious boys. And of course, serious girls. Epic performance, fantastic handling, and two of the most technically advanced machines on the road today. They may look a bit over the top just sitting still, but they look even more over the top on the move. The Impreza is quite magnificent, but Mitsubishi's Evo 6 is even better.
And you can imagine just how much that jars the Subaru boys. So much so that they've started again from scratch. And the new Impreza should be pretty good if its wonderful heritage is anything to go by. On offer is a 1.6 or a 2-litre engine in both saloon and sports wagon bodies. But what you and I really want to know about is the £21,500 turbocharged WRX version. And who was the first person outside Subaru to drive it? Me. It's 7 years since the first Impreza was launched, so plenty of time for Subaru to spend at the drawing board improving its chiselled, purposeful features. Were they inspired by the classic lines of Ferrari, perhaps, or the muscular stance of Lamborghinis? No, because the front looks too much like a Toyota Corolla, and even Corolla owners will tell you that that is a bad idea. It gets worse. The new Impreza is now more expensive and slower to 60. So it seems as though Subaru is testing the loyalty of their fans to the limit. It had better drive well. Fortunately, it does drive well. Very well, in fact. The clutch is lighter and the gearbox is as precise as ever. And where all hell broke loose when the turbo woke up in the previous model, here the power delivery is smoother, keeping you in the sweet spot for longer. Despite the cosmetic surgery, much of the original familiar Impreza still lies beneath. Permanent four-wheel drive and a 4-cylinder boxer engine. And although the new car is slower to accelerate, the top speed has been increased slightly to 143 miles an hour. More impressive improvements can be seen inside. Gone are the yoghurt pot plastics and Fisher-Price controls, to be replaced by expensive plastics and more stylish controls. It won't be winning any design awards, but as Japanese interiors go, it's an absolute revelation. Look, shiny metal and thick carpets. All occupants have been given more room too. The biggest thing Subaru's crowing about is the handling. Stiffer and wider than before, it gives greater cornering grip and an even greater grin. And when you're pressing on, it feels wonderfully sure-footed, with the expected understeer never really raising its head. The outgoing Impreza is a caveman of a car, and lovers of its brutishness will be sad to hear its successor now has manners. But we're happy to report that Subaru aren't pushing their luck at all. The WRX is fun, a lot of fun.
Now, the best thing about the motor show for me is the fact that you just can't move for top celebrities. Look at all these autographs I've got. I got Lightning out of Gladiators. Oh, she was still on. Here's Lloyd Grossman through the keyhole. Here are the famous world record-breaking rowers. It's Steve Redgrave and Tim Foster and all the other lads. And here's the world-famous racing driver, Sterling Moss. Oh, yeah, and then I had a right laugh with Tom O'Connor. Oh, look at this one, Lee. It's that bloke who was on the telly cooking Anthony Wonnell Thompson. Actually, I'm starving. Fancy a pot noodle? That's Craig, you know, the bloke out of Big Brother. Hi, Craig. Can I have your autograph, mate?
No, I'll go nowhere. Can I have yours? How's that?
Thanks a lot, mate. It's all yours. So, quite an impressive collection. I think you'll agree. We were hoping to get Ronan Keating's autograph because he was performing with Claudia Schiffer, but he had to pull out at the last minute, so... Lee, what are you laughing at? It's not funny.
So, you think the Mondeo is a wee bit too grown-up, and you may well be right, in which case, Renault's rather more flamboyant-looking Laguna 2 ought to do the trick. It's actually two cars in one. This is the Sport Tourer, or Estate. And there's also a 5-door hatchback.
And continuing the French theme, there's a brand new Citroën for the family, the C5. And it's bigger and bolder than the Xantia it replaces, but it's also a bit uglier. There's a new 2.2 HDI diesel engine and a 3-litre V6, but both are guaranteed a magic carpet ride thanks to Citroën's clever liquid suspension.
While on the Volkswagen stand, one of our favourites, the Passat, has had a facelift. Or at least, I think it has. Well, I can't see any others around, so this must be it.
And if the thought of all those family cars has left you feeling a little broody, then how about this? The funky company Seat is helping to boost the population by giving us the sporty Cupra Ibiza. And if the hottest hatch for under 14 grand can't secure your mate, then, quite frankly, you've got no chance.
But if that's not sporty enough for you, Caterham have a new version of the 7, designed to, quite literally, broaden its appeal. For the first time since 1957, they've altered its dimensions to accommodate a slightly fuller figure.
From Alfa Romeo, there's a stylish new 147 sports hatchback to replace the 145. And we think it's the prettiest hatch around.
While on the Fiat stand, the Multipla has had a baby. But even its mother wouldn't call it beautiful, which is why she called it Doblo.
The Honda Civic has been with us since 1972, and now it's been given yet another fresh suit. It's grown up and it's halfway to being an MPV, or possibly all the way to being a blob. But this is a very important car in a very important sector, so is it any good? I like Hondas, nice. You see, they're quite adjustable, aren't they? They're very predictable, they break away, but... And even though this is only a 1.6 with, what, 108 brake horsepower, it still, listen to it revving away quite happily. Build quality, not bad. It's not top of the class, though. Not with Volkswagen Golf, is it?
I know.
Not overly exciting.
It is amazingly tall.
You know what? It's almost too tall, isn't it? I mean,
you don't really need all that space.
What's this for, a family of Macons or something?
I definitely don't need that space.
Lee. Now, if you get to a hall and you want to know where a particular stand is, well, there's a system for that too. What you do is look above your head. Scardy cars. Sure enough, Scardy cars. Noble and noble. Lee. Seat. Somewhere you can have a rest. Well, you'll soon get the hang of it.
Normally at the motor show, the manufacturers like to show off just how clever they're going to be in the future by presenting weird and wonderful concept cars loaded with brave, bold design. I say normally, because the only people who really seem to have made an effort this year are Peugeot, who describe their city toys as recreational concept cars set in a distant point of time when driving and pleasure are still a possible combination. These carbon fibre creations, which combine the fun of scooters with eco-friendly electric power, look terrific. But what do our guest designers make of the concept of concepts?
The French in general and Peugeot in particular have been doing a lot of catching up recently, and they're getting very strong in what they're doing. And these concept products that they've got here, these city toys, are actually very interesting because they're not really realistic attempts to produce a concept vehicle that we'll be driving in a couple of years. They're really signposts to say where it could be. And the real point that's being made is the future doesn't have to be boring. It can actually be fun.
In fact, it's nice to see a company opening the box, you know, and really showing us how things might be in the future. Lots of people have cars not for going to do the shopping or taking the kids to school, but just for the sheer hell and enjoyment of it. And why not?
You've got to remember that concept vehicles aren't just there for the public to see. They've actually got a very, very important role internally in car companies. It's all the young kids that they've actually set on this. It's their young Turks that they need to get out their feelings and their ideas. Some of the postural things, some of the positions that you're actually in to drive it, a lot of them have got sort of scooter controls. That's intriguing. Takes you forward another click, makes you think about it in a different way. 10 electric motors on the wheels. Was this open? A lot of these are more fun, and the future can be fun as well as ecologically sound, as well as sensible. So, you know, let's think about the fun as well.
There is still an awful lot of work to do in standard cars to really make them better for the people who use them. And these concept cars don't really do that. They're doing something different. That's not to say that they're not important and they're not really interesting and fabulous, but I think there's still an awful lot of work to be done in basic vehicles to make them better.
As a certain young lady here on the Renault stand keeps telling us,
size does matter.
And when it comes to engine performance, there's no doubt she's right. The 172 horsepower 2-litre in the front of this Clio may be impressive, but a 230 horsepower 3-litre V6 in the back sounds even better. Especially when it's all wrapped up in a body that has so many spoilers, intakes and flares, it'll have every schoolboy jaw in the world dragging on the pavement. Well, if it goes anything like it sounds, we're not going to be disappointed. That V6 right behind me makes all the right noises. It doesn't sing like a Ferrari, but then nor does it rattle like a Lotus Exige. Instead, it provides a real sense of purpose with a throaty, racing roar. The Clio Renault Sport V6 24-valve, to give it its full name, is the only mid-engined hatchback available today, and everything seems oriented to an intense experience, but not at the expense of luxury. This is more of a grand tourer than a stripped-bare sports car. As an overall driving experience, there's no doubt this Clio excites, but it also slightly disappoints. We've already agreed that size matters, but we also know that getting bigger means getting heavier. And whilst this Clio has gained about 60 horsepower, it's also gained around 300 kilos in weight. So it's not quite the pocket rocket that many had hoped for, but it's still a whole lot of fun. It's much more involving than the similarly priced Audi TT, and it's got a lot more than a BMW 323 Coupe. It may look mad, but it actually makes very good sense. So size does matter, but small can also be beautiful.
If you're thinking of coming along to the show, it's still got a week to run, with doors finally closing on Sunday 29th of October. The show's open daily from 9:30 to 7, except on the final day when it closes at 5:30. Tickets are £12 for adults and £6 for children on the door, or a touch cheaper if you pre-book. Car parks are £7, and if you come by train, please remember to get off at Birmingham International, otherwise you'll end up in Coventry, and I don't recommend that.
There are special motorsport days on the 27th and 28th of October, and if you need a break from traipsing around the car stands, why not visit the Star Studio? Someone had the bright idea of asking a whole host of celebrities to design their dream car. The results are varied, from Jensen Button's blueprints for a Bond car to Gary Rhodes's kidney bean car.
Yeah, right, I'm here at the Star Studio and I'm going to design my dream car, and what I've always dreamed of is a car that is really very sporty, but it's also very good off-road, and it's got room inside for a family of four, but it's more like a two-seater. So, over to you. What do you make of this then, Lee? I think you'll agree it's probably the best one that we've seen so far. But all of them, good or rubbish, are going to be auctioned at the end of the show for charity. So, what are my bids?
Now here's a pretty one. Well, sort of. The Peugeot 206cc. No, it hasn't got a 206cc engine. The CC stands for Coupe Cabriolet, which actually, although a contradiction in terms, explains perfectly what it is. You see, it's a hardtop coupe until at the press of a button, the roof magically disappears into the boot, and, you're with me now, you've got a cabriolet. Very neat, very modern, but unfortunately with your roof in the boot, there's no room in there for anything else. So a nice little runaround for people who only go away in the winter.
But the most important small car at the show is the new Vauxhall Corsa. And it is new. No, really. Mind you, when you realise that they've sold over 8 million of these things since its launch in 1983, when of course it was badged as the Nova, you can see why they wouldn't want to fiddle with the styling too much. I mean, why rock the money-spinning boat? Now, the old Corsa was just rubbish to drive. So, have Vauxhall bothered to improve it? It's still hardly the place to come if ragged edge thrills are your main priority. Nevertheless, with its 89 brake horsepower 1.4-litre engine, it zips along quite merrily. Top speed is about 113 miles per hour, and it'll do 60 miles per hour in a little whisker over 10 seconds. It's not bad at all. Luckily, the new Corsa is a massive improvement on the old Corsa. It's fun to drive, and it's well screwed together. I say luckily because, let's face it, it's going to sell by the bucket load, whatever it's like.
Now, you may have read about Daewoo having trouble paying their staff, but that's all behind them now, and they're here at the show with a bigger stand than ever and a new-look Matiz. Like the Corsa, the new Matiz isn't that different to the old one, keeping the cheeky charm that meant it sold like hot Pokemon cards. It's a bit more muscular on the outside and a lot more funky on the inside, with this brushed aluminium look to the centre console and jazzy two-tone blue dials. There have been some rumours of poor build quality, but Daewoo reckon they've sorted that out, and this little Matiz still provides loads of fun and loads of space for not a lot of money.
Also from Daewoo comes the Takuma, the car they describe as a recreational sedan. Sedan because you can sedan in it, and recreational because it's got the option of an inbuilt DVD player and a Sony PlayStation. Tiff, time for another thrashing.
Shoot!
Goal!
No!
Come on! Red card,
No,
sweetheart.
no, it wasn't. It was offside.
It was not offside.
Would you two
just shut up?
And it doesn't stop at video games, because the £13,500 Takuma will eventually allow internet access.
But if you prefer your hatches a little bit hotter than the Volkswagen stands, always a good place to start. After all, they can lay claim to the creation of the hot hatch itself with the Golf GTI, which is a bit grown up these days. It's put a bit of weight on. So, time to pass the baton to the baby Lupo.
And this GTI redefines the word pocket rocket. Mean looks, lightweight and a good dose of power should help it fly from the showrooms.
Yes, everyone knows they're a dab hand at the old hot hatch game. But it might have slipped your mind, so are Daihatsu. They have a long and rich history of making absolutely lunatic super minis. Mind you, none of those ever had this vaguely Formula One inspired steering wheel mounted Tiptronic gear change system. Press the little plus buttons to change up, the little minus button to change down. Okay, so the Sirion might look a bit strange in a very oriental kind of way, and the name Sirion is undoubtedly very silly, but, and don't tell anyone I told you this, it's actually quite a lot of fun, this wee car.
But perhaps Daihatsu got a bit too carried away with this SL version of their Terios. Apparently worried that people were actually going to take their little 4x4 off-road, they've added spoilers and side skirts and created a sort of max power Wendy house.
Also from Daihatsu comes one of the few genuine world debuts at this year's show, the YRV. Why, indeed. Oh look, a red one.
Lee, Lee, where do you fancy going now? Where shall we go? Shall we do Ferrari? Lee? Lee, you dirty devil, come on. We're getting into trouble again.
Great thing about motor shows like this is that you get not only the opportunity to see great car design and how they do it, but also to see how the motor manufacturers actually see themselves through the stand design. So let's see if they're half as good at that as they are at designing the cars.
When you look at a stand like this, you have to say, well, is it Renault? You know, what does it say about Renault? Am I getting something across here from this stand that reinforces what Renault's all about? Well, you know, it's sort of laminate. It looks like MFI. It doesn't have that sort of fantastic quality. So you can see they've been trying to go for something that's very high quality, very traditional, but not sure it's really there.
One thing you've got to remember about motor show stands is that car manufacturers don't design them. Stand designers design them. I think some of them need a damn good spanking, actually, from what I've seen so far. The one that we're standing out in front of isn't one of those. The Volkswagen stand is very much on message, so to speak. It's basically talking about the technology. It's got a cleanliness to it. It's got a modernity to it. It's not entirely convincing, I don't think, but it certainly gets probably 8 out of 10.
Well, this whole hall is Ford, and I think it shows tremendous renewed confidence from Ford, because in this hall you've got all of their big brands dotted around, but each one is doing its own thing. But as a whole entity, as a stand, it really hangs together. And they've been fortunate because they've got the whole hall, so they've lowered the roof and it gives it a more intimate feeling. And yet each individual stand can exist on its own with its own values. So I think it's tremendous. Done a good job.
And finally, there's Lotus, where we find the best kept secret of the entire show. Now, the motoring press prides itself on knowing what every manufacturer is up to at all times, but no one expected to see this, the successor to the Elise. The new Elise has been under development in total secrecy for the last year. Of course, now they've told the whole world, they're letting anyone and everyone who wants to visit their Norfolk test track see and film the car. But absolutely nobody, except the Lotus test drivers, will get behind the wheel until next month. Now, I always loved the old Elise, but this apparently is how Lotus intended it to be all along. So, it's lower, it's longer, it's wider, it's easier to get into and out of, it's more powerful, and it's more torquey, which it needs to be, because the car this replaces saved Lotus from bankruptcy. Why? Well, it's very simple, actually. Everyone who drove it fell in love with it, and it has some rather impressive allies when it comes to keeping its memory alive. You see, the Elise now has a gang. This year it spawned the race-bred Lotus Exige, that's the silver one, and the Vauxhall VX220, that's the yellow one. The question is, does the Elise remain the leader of the gang? So exactly what is it that makes the Elise so good? After all, it's essentially a very basic, very noisy aluminium tub. But because this little Lotus has stripped away modern technology, it puts you in total control and puts the fun back in driving. It's just so agile.
Ah, if you want agile, then you'll want an Exige. This is a car I could happily play in all day. On our wide-open test track, it's unbeatable.
But all that fun will cost you £30,000. Now, the Vauxhall VX220. It's cheaper than the Exige, yet more powerful than the Elise.
Confused? That's what Tiff and Vicki want. They'll keep confusing you with all sorts of stuff to muddy the waters because their cars are derivative. And as with all copies, they aren't as pure as the original, the Elise. Whatever the other two try to tell you, this remains one of the purest driving experiences around.
Well, if the Elise is pure, the Exige is intense. It's about as noisy in here as the race car it's based on. And to make it as light as possible, it's stripped bare of any modern-day driver aids.
Which is where the VX220 scores some points. OK, you don't get limo luxuries, but you do get an airbag, ABS and acres of grip, which all means that you don't have to have racing driver reflexes to enjoy it.
OK, let's sort this out. The VX220 is fine and dandy and looks great from the front. Unfortunately, its bottom's rather ugly. The Exige looks great from all angles. Thank you, Tiff. But those racing looks bring with them racing noise. I said noise! The Elise still looks as good as the day it was launched. Modern British sports cars just don't get any prettier.
Each of the cars has its individual strengths.
And all are great in their own way.
But for us, the Elise is still the original and the best. It's a very, very tough act for the new car to follow.
Well, that's just about the end of the motor show, but we thought we'd end with a good bit of public service broadcasting.
Delivered in an easy-to-digest style. You see, you'll probably struggle to get to see everything in one day.
So, to help you out, here's our list of the top 10 must-see attractions.
At number 10, it's the yellow Bentley, a ludicrous example of what might have happened had Craig kept his big brother money.
At 9, those kooky concepts from Peugeot. Bless.
At 8, the Alfa Romeo 147. You must have a look, if for no reason than to guess what the grille reminds us of.
Number 7 in our must-see attractions is the Ford Hall. Who's got a big company then?
Number 6 is the TVR stand, with mirrors everywhere. You can see not only the cars, but yourself looking at the cars, and yourself looking at the cars.
So to the top 5. And at 5, it's Renault's monster Clio V6. Whoa!
At 4, a pair of topless Italians, Ferrari's 360 Spider and the 550 Barchetta.
At 3, BMW's sublime and subtle M3.
At 2, Porsche's Carrera GT. Honestly, you will not believe how stunning this car is until you go and stand right next to it. And then you will not want to leave.
But our number 1 must-see at this year's motor show just has to be the new Mini. You may like it, you may not, but you've just got to go and have a look. Goodbye.
What a great show. All them stands and accessories and stuff, it was fantastic. I might get a car, you know.